Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Man of Truth, aka the Villain of Truth, aka the Black Panther of Nigeria. Uh, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Today, I might try my best to discuss about a few things I'm not used to, but I will. I think that I'm almost used to discussing anything. But early this morning, as I woke up, it was important to trim the trees. And when I made decision to trim the trees, it was not basically for my own reason, but for the safety of the birds. And I will talk about the purpose of pain in our life. In life, there is a purpose why we go through pain. And there are few things I've been studying about the birds and the rest of it. Now, I do not know the difference between the name difference between these birds and the previous birds that used to stay on this tree. The previous birds that were staying on this tree, they've moved to a different location. Now I have a different kind of bird on the tree. The previous ones were brown in color. They come to my turkey. These are normal birds you see. I don't know. You don't call them dove, but they are very small. Brown birds. But as time went on, they moved away from here and they are building houses on some other trees. And these other new birds that are yellow in color, they are the ones that take over this whole place. Now, one thing I understand, greetings, Jojo Dance All, right, that's from England. Good day. So, the brown birds have vacated this place, but the yellow birds have come to this location. And subsequently, Thanks for joining. And subsequently, when I come out, I realized what was the issue. There are these big birds that fly around. Do they call them asha? They call them asha in the Yoruba language, but I don't know their name. They are not eagle, but they pick up little birds like the chicks of a fowl. And occasionally they will come to the trees to search for little birds that they are going to kill. The same thing happens. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being a new subscriber. The same thing happens. Are you in Nigeria? Yes, absolutely. I'm in Nigeria. So subsequently, these birds come around and we have owls. Owls come around here sometimes around 2 a.m. in the morning, sometimes 1 a.m. in the morning. And I'm a kind of person that every time feels okay for me to come outside. Every time feels okay for me to come out. So when I come out, I've seen birds, I've seen owls staring at me. I've slept outside here. And so sometimes I see the owls goes to the bird's place to take the chicks, or sometimes it might be a snake. A snake would have to go up to go take the birds, or maybe the egg they lay. And they also face through their own challenges. And I'm like, everything is peaceful, but everything has a challenge or a pain that they have to go through. And that involves humans also. Sometimes in life we think we are unique, but in reality, we are not. We experience the same thing. The only thing I've seen that most birds have been able to do better than humans is that they've known how to evolve with time, to build a better nest, to improve themselves, and to understand that whatever they are going through is just part of life. They understand time and season better than humans do, including the ants. They understand time and seasons better than humans do. And some of us in life, I do not even think there will be anyone right now in life that would say that there is no such thing within their hearts, physically, emotionally, mentally, that they undergo some pain. Everyone is undergoing one pain or the other. Yeah. Every creature has a challenge and they undergo some pains. Now, the problem about humans is that when we undergo pain, we try to run away from our pain, and we rather not learn the purpose behind the pain. This is what humans do wrong. Now, what I studied about the birds was that there's a way they create their nests. So when the birds come, that's the bigger one, or the owl, or the snake, when they come around, they knew how they set up their nest that they can come out from a different direction and fly off. So every struggle they go through, they know how to navigate, and they grow with time. Humans are the only ones that struggles with trauma. And in fact, a lot of people love to discuss trauma. A lot of people, they feel alive, they feel they are educated, they want to immerse themselves within pain just to talk about their trauma. They think they are going to get sympathy, empathy. To some people, in fact, discussing about their trauma makes them feel like they are educated and they are intelligent. What do I mean by that? Only humans discuss trauma, things that have happened in the past, and they get stuck with it. They find it difficult to move forward. Thank you, Jojo. Humans find it difficult to move forward in life. And in fact, it is rare to find relationships that people exist in today that there is no such thing as trauma bond. And they validate trauma bonding or traumas. Just because people say, I have my own trauma and I'm working on my trauma, does not necessarily mean that they really want to get out of the trauma. In fact, most people who talk about trauma, if you look at them when they speak, years after years, month after month, they still find a way to talk about their previous trauma and their trauma, not because they are trying to help other people. Thank you. Not because they are trying to help other people to navigate their path in life, but because they are trying to validate their pains in life. I always tell people that my life is not a hard life. My life is not difficult. My life is not hard life. Just because I went through some pains in my life does not mean that my life is hard. That was just a season in my life. I came from the majority of us came from broken home. Majority of us have suffered. I remember the other time I was talking about my past experience before I was able to start having properties and doing a lot of stuff. I shared part of my story at some point that my house was burnt twice, completely. And I was left with, compared to today's currency, $2. And I had nothing. My business has crumbled, when I say destroyed completely. And all this experience are just there to teach you how to navigate your way in life. There is this book, this jotter. I have them, there are about 3, but this one. Whenever I see this book, it reminds me of something great in my life earlier this year. And it validates who I was during the time when I was going through some challenges. Everything I wrote here. Good day. Thanks for joining Sis Emotion. Everything I wrote on this jotter I bought it while I was in jail. When I was in jail, that was when I bought this jotter, and I began to write things on the jotter. Now, there are many things I was able to discover while I was in jail. Rather than me see it as a place of oppression, basically because I knew I didn't do anything to deserve to be there, I saw it as an opportunity for me to learn, for me to grow, for me to study a different part of life and how humans will feel at the downwards point of our life. I studied few things about giving. I wrote some things about giving while I was in jail because I love to give. The moment I have few cash with me, I see a lot of people are struggling. And so I find a way to give to people. And I studied the human dynamics when it comes to the idea of giving. I studied the difference between the rich and the poor disparity, even at the lowest point of life. I spoke about my children while I was in prison. There was something I wrote while I was in jail about my son. And when I was there, I wrote stuff. And this is what I'm reading. Let me read it. I said, while I was, or I am still in prison, while I was, or I am still in prison, and I remember my son, who is already 5 years old, and I see the absence of my presence at the moment, and how it might feel. Sometimes I want to cry, but I immediately change my perception to the fact that this is also a moment for our next chapter in life between I and my son, to be filled with more love and good experience. That was one thing I learned. I was in jail when I wrote everything here. Now, before I went to jail, I was absolutely a good father to my son. I was doing my best. In fact, I'm the best friend to my children. But in my absence, while I found myself in jail, I remembered that it is a moment for me to take that opportunity to reflect on, do I only love my son because he's my son, or am I building the true experience of a father to a son to make him have a better experience of life? And to equip him for his own future ahead, which is definitely going to face his own challenges in life. That was one path. And many times when I find myself during the time I was in jail, all I did at that moment was to keep writing from one jotter to another. I kept jotting things. But one of the things I was doing was jotting not just my experience, but the lessons in my experience. There are a lot of people who will find themselves also in jail, and rather for you to talk about the lessons, you focus on the experience. The difference between now and the difference between then, it's not much difference. Maybe freedom to move around, maybe to record videos, maybe to play with my children and all of that. But that was the greatest moment I could learn things from. And that was the importance of pain. I can be inspired at this moment. I can get motivated at this moment. I can go work at this moment. I could learn few skills at this moment. But the real equipment of my life or of my experience or the greatest lessons of my life dwells during those downward time, not at this particular time of my life. And if I had not experienced that, I wouldn't be able to speak to you about the subject in details. One of the things that was also my observation while I was in jail, I studied my emotions and every other person's emotion. And I saw how ego comes in more clearly than what we experience subconsciously and we react. And in part of my observations, I wrote something and I said, emotions such as pride, ego, unforgiveness, etc., are spiritual clothes. You become them when they overshadow your spiritual being. I repeat that particular writing. I says emotions such as pride, ego, unforgiveness, etc., are spiritual clothes. You become them when they overshadow your spiritual being. When you have pride inside of you, let's just say when you're proud, sometimes you wouldn't understand that you're carrying something. The way you act becomes different. The way you approach the world becomes different. Why? You're putting on a garment, but this garment is not physical. Because trust me, that same garment you put on your body and you are so proud of yourself, you can also remove that garment and you become a different being. You become humble. Samoye Kwere, good morning. Says humans possesses cognitive abilities like language capability. These qualities separate humans from other animals. Absolutely. Now, one of the things I also understand is that there is a lot of freedom that majority of us can have without specifically taking drugs, but the liberation is right there within ourselves, and it's just for us to come to a conclusion that we are done with that part of us. You know, most of these things can only be experienced, fully experienced, when you have not experienced such things as forgiving someone. A lot of people have hurt us in our life, and we think we have moved on from those people. But those things actually flow with us everywhere we go. Maybe by our parent, maybe by our family, maybe by our girlfriend. Somebody has done something to us. And unknowingly to us, we move around with that particular energy of that individual. And all we have to do to liberate ourselves from thing is to see that individual and to completely forgive that person. Because when you do not have the ability to forgive the person, regardless of therapy, regardless of your meditation, regardless of your religion, regardless of your belief, you are going to be stuck with something that you don't even see with your eyes. Some people will say it's paranoia. Some people will say it's therapy. When you have some unresolved issues inside of you, you wouldn't know those things have overshadowed you in some sense. We have few things that we consider that makes us different from other animals, but other animals also have things that make them different from us. The specialty is not in mankind. Nothing is truly special except the things that have truly existed before man. You know, one of the things that I know hold us back so much in life is just ego and pride. Could come from religion, could come from whatever. Ego and pride. And we think that humans, we are very powerful, we are very great, or something like that. That's all misconceptions. That's all misunderstanding. Because when you look at the true fact of life, if every human on earth dies today, in fact, let's put it in this perspective. If every worm on earth dies today, humans will not exist in the next 2 years. Let's say maximum 3-4 years. If the worm and ants die today, humans would not exist in the next 6 years or 8 years. But if all humans die today, the earth is going to flourish. Trees are going to grow everywhere. Lions will be more. Tigers will be more. There will be more birds. There will be more fish in the sea. And the reason is simply because we think as humans that we are king and lord over all these things, rather than us to see them or see ourselves as we have a lot of duties in our life to take care of the things that are being given to us by nature. Birds relocating is called birds migration. This is due to food availability, climate change, sustainability, let's put it that way, resting habitat, predisposition. True. And I was saying it earlier, like those brown birds, I think it was more easier for those other, we call them all those big birds, to come around and pick up the children and move away. And sometimes snakes can easily destroy the houses of those birds because they have few houses here. I think there's a difference. Okay. Okay. Now the difference is there is a bird that builds this one, and these houses are not very strong. And there's another bird that builds this one. It is more difficult for this is how they build their house, something like that, like this. And the leaf they used to build it is different and very strong, stronger than the other one. And part of what I noticed was these particular beds right now, they are not, I don't know if food is the issue, because what I try to do is I try to put food around for the birds to feed. But I think it was maybe, like you said, maybe it's migration, maybe it's climate change. But I think these other ones are better off here because they are more safer. And sometimes snakes can come from this other angle and they find their way, they climb the trees, but it's rare for them to find something to kill. My thought was maybe they evolved with time and they knew how to be more secure and stronger than the other ones. And that's the reason why they could survive. At the end of the day, most of these things only boils down to the idea of when we go through our downwards time in life, do we take that opportunity to learn and grow from it? That's true. It's just animal instinct for adaptation and survival. That's true. Maybe they adapt in some ways. Maybe humans, we don't adapt that much. Though they say humans are good at adapting. All right, that's it. But one of the things I've been able to learn so far is that in their adaptation, they survive and they continue to live their life. But mostly in the aspect of humans, humans adapt best. True, exactly. That's where I'm going. They say humans adapt best, but we adapt mostly with a lot of trauma. We adapt with a lot of trauma. And what I mean by that is if we look at what our ancestors have been through, they were able to survive and they were happy. They were joyful during their time. Maybe not that joyful because of experiences of war and the rest of it, childbirth and the rest of it, but they knew how to live more longer than this generation. One of the difficulties of our generation is we struggle with even the basic emotional needs. And if we have more depressed people right now, when the world is kind of easy, when things are kind of, I wouldn't say it's easy for everyone, but when things are kind of better, in a better position, you don't have to walk around to go get water in most places. Yet these people are the most depressed people. Are we adapting better as humans? Or are we only adapting for survival? Adaptation for survival and adaptation for well-being are two different adaptations. I have seen people who have been traumatized by their parents and they've gone through a lot of hardship, and these people know how to remain calm and peaceful and joyful with their life. And there are those who have just been heartbroken by their boyfriend or their previous spouse, and they hold on to it till the day they die. So I think humans, we know how to adapt for survival, but the question I'm saying is, are we? I don't know, maybe it is in other places, but I haven't seen where animals are being diagnosed for anxiety and depression. They might fall sick, they may die along the way, but they know how to adapt and continue to live. And they are more in the same state. And some people would say that it's basically because we are more intelligent than animals. We can be more intelligent than animals, but can we say that we are more conscious than animals? Than most animals, not all animals. And the reason why I am pointing this out is basically because I know for a fact that I've seen too many people glorify their pain. Sometimes, what a lot of people go for therapy, to go do therapeutic and all this stuff, and they start taking medications. Sometimes, all they have to do is to let go of the past. And in fact, when some people go for therapy and the rest of it, mostly, I'm not talking about the ones that need medication. That's not the one I'm talking about. But I'm saying mostly when people go for therapy and they have to talk to a therapist every single time, it is basically because they are holding on to something at the past or in the past. And it is restricting them from moving forward. And it is basically because humans have lost awareness and consciousness inside of them. Well, maybe we would say they are conscious, but they are not aware. And in fact, when it comes to consciousness, there are levels to consciousness. And when you are not aware of your situation, when you experience pain, do you know how to learn from that pain and grow through that pain? Or we use those pain not even as a step to climb mountain, but we use it to remain in a painful state in our life. And that's exactly what I decide to talk about today. Let us take time. I wrote a lot of stuff during the time when I had this experience of I wrote a lot of stuff. And I write, and I think one of the best moments in our life is when we go through some difficult times. The problem is that humans, we do not. Animals go through trauma and other illnesses. Yes, this is why we have veterinarian. I know animals go through sicknesses. In fact, snakes does. Every animals do. I agree. One of the animals I can agree goes through trauma is dogs. But we ask ourselves, most animals will live. Dogs can be traumatized. It is more common to see a traumatized dog than to see any traumatized other kinds of animals. And my basic theory, I could be ignorant, but my basic theory was simply because dogs live more with humans. In fact, if they don't hit much garbage as humans do. Because would you even agree that part of the things that might even traumatize us in certain ways is basically because we are no more aligned with nature? How many people eat a lot of processed food? And when we eat too many processed food, we end up having various kind of sickness. And I can say this, some people have the grace, some people have the chance to be able to create, to have maybe an organic farm and to do things that they can eat fresh food. But basically because they want to live in a society that's, looks a little bit more glamorous. And then you see them go to hospital almost every time. Because I do not know about any other animals that experience trauma as dogs. And it is not difficult to know why dogs experience trauma. Animals. So in a nutshell, here's what I would say. Because I know of cats, I know of dogs. Sometimes people say chimpanzees. Sometimes people say elephants. Sometimes people say few wild animals like zebra. Is zebra even a wild animal? Zebra is not a wild animal. But most especially, the animals that experience a lot of trauma, most of them tends to be animals that are with humans or that have been in captive. And they have to be caged. The only time animals actually experience being caged is by humans. Nothing caged animals except humans. And so we can traumatize them by our own actions. But I think if we're good at handling ourselves, all animals experience trauma. Horses, all animals. Zebras are wild animals. Okay, zebras are wild animals. Is there a reason why zebras are wild animals? Let me see, why are zebras considered to be wild animal? Because they have not been domesticated by humans and retain their natural behaviors and instincts. It says zebras are considered wild animals because they have not been domesticated by humans and retain their natural behaviors and instincts. What's their natural behaviors and instincts? They live in the wild, primarily in African savannas and exhibit behaviors such as fleeing from predators, living in herds, and having complex social structures. Unlike domesticated animals like horses, zebras are known to be difficult to train or tame due to their unpredictable nature, strong survival instinct, and tendency to resist captivity. This combination of traits, along with their natural habitat and lifestyle, classifies them as wild. Mm. Okay, so whatever doesn't live with humans is considered to be wild. My interest here is to talk to people like you said earlier when Samuel Yekwere says humans are adaptive. Now I say adaptation for survival or adaptation for better emotions or whatever. We might talk about regulations and the rest of the things, but the question is, are we so much aware of ourselves? Are we so much conscious? Are we spiritually more awakened than we naturally perceive ourselves? And we might not understand our capabilities simply because we are being told that whatever we go through is part of us. It is part of our experience. And I may agree with us that it is part of our experience, but my advice would be let us use that experience as a way to improve ourselves. As we've seen that most other animals know how to evolve with time. Some animals know how to evolve with time. And they know how to adapt and to regulate themselves. If we take every negative experience in our life and we take the best out of all situations, we are going to come out on the other side becoming a better person. And that's just what the conversation is all about. Let's not see the pain of our life as something that is there to destroy us, but rather let us see everything as an opportunity for us to grow and become a better version of ourselves. And the worst thing about pain is that if you don't learn from it, you are bound to repeat it. And some people think because something is painful, the things they learn mostly from pain is to run away from it. Pain is not necessarily what we run away from because it finds its way to appear in our life when we have not mostly understand the lessons, when we have not been able to gather the wisdom and the knowledge on why we experience those pains in the first place. So with that being said, this evening, most likely by 7 p.m., we're going to talk more on some subject regarding the Anunnakis, like I promised the audience. Let us find greatness. Let us find lessons in whatever we go through in life and become the better version of ourselves. The pain we go through is not there to actually destroy us. It is there to improve us. And like I said, I don't think I've been through the worst thing in my life. Yes, I tell people part of my story, at least for almost 4 months in my life, I was sleeping on a dustbin. Dustbin. Is there any other name they use in calling dustbin? Where they heap dirty. I've been there, I've slept there for at least 6 months. 6 months. My house have been burnt twice. My shop has been destroyed twice. I've lived my life for good 1 month plus without taking point water on my body. Lou says zebra was once domesticated, used in Europe circles. Horse is easier. Yeah. So, and every time I look at those situations, the only thing I see is I rarely even remember them. I only remember the lessons during those times. And what I realized in the last time when my house was being burnt was like, okay, if I would perhaps want to know much about property as I grew old, as I begin to grow in life, is like, okay, I have to get properties in the right environment so this particular thing does not repeat itself. And I've used that lesson to also teach people more about, okay, do not go to government acquisitions, don't get properties in this particular environment and stuff like that. I become more careful. While I was in jail, I learned too many things. I wrote down too many things. And that experience, was it painful? Yes. But it was necessary at that particular time. And the necessity in it was like, I have to learn how to appreciate life the more. I have to learn to understand that people are experiencing a different world than the world we are already used to. And when my heart was broken, let me say, when a girlfriend broke my heart and I figured out, oh, she was a cheater and the rest of it, it made me say, okay, I would rather use this knowledge to sacrifice my time and decide to find a good woman in my life rather than go around and just pick a lady basically because of my desire. I would look for a lady that I know that she would be good for me. And the Bible really said something about he who finds a wife. And so it makes me want to do the work. Some men will tell you it is easy for most men to come online and we tell people that, oh, women are bad and this and that. And we ask ourselves, are we not participating in having more prostitutes in the society? Are we not evolving ourselves with these things? And then when we find a lady who breaks our hearts, a lady who takes your money, a lady who you meet in the club, I don't know where people meet wife in the club. There are situations where people do. It happens. But that's probability. It's not possibility. And so there are due diligence and due sacrifice we need to do. So when I'm getting my property right now, I don't live in my house being scared that, oh, my house is going to get destroyed by the government anymore because I did my due diligence. I am not afraid of perhaps my wife, I and my wife can decide tomorrow and we break up. But I knew I did everything possible to be able to get a wife so I wouldn't fall into that particular experience of heartbreak. I would know that I did my best at the particular time that I had. Samuel Yekwe replied Lou, and he says animals used for cross displays are tamed for domesticated. Domesticated animals move freely and live amongst humans. Yeah. So the idea is for us to use our lessons in our life, whatever we are going through. Let's just see it at the moment that what are the best things we can learn from it. And let us use that to improve ourselves. With that being said, perhaps there is any question um, or any contribution, please feel free to ask. We have maybe 1-2 minutes. If there's no question coming in, then I call it a day and we meet later in the evening. or if you want us to discuss about few things. Or you would have loved us to touch on few things. Domestication is different from being tamed. Let me see. Difference between domestic. It says that domestication is a process that occurs over generations. It involves breeding and genetic changes to adapt an animal to live with humans in a controlled environment. Taming is the process of training an individual wild animals to be calm and interact with humans, often through conditioning or socialization. So it seems tamed simply means the first process. If an animal can be tamed, is the same as domesticated. In fact, in the definition I see here, it's almost the same, but maybe we would say for the sake of grammar and for the sake of English, let's say they are different. Because domesticated simply means, like, according to the definition, is something that has been with humans for generations. But tamed is the process of training an animal, a wild animal. But maybe for us, I would see it as almost the same. I see it almost the same. See documentary where tamed lion roam around the house with their owner. Yeah. Domestication is living with humans. Tamed is being trained to adjust but could be dangerous. Okay. Okay. Looking at pit bull, for example, all these pit bull dogs, some of them have been with humans for a while, but they've not been fully. Some of them, are they still being tamed? Because they can be very dangerous. Some pit bull animals. Do we call that tamed? I'm just trying to learn here. Do we call it tamed? Are they being tamed? There are some animals, like dogs, that have been trained in certain ways, but they can still be very dangerous. Like Rottweiler, there are certain Rottweilers that are not fully domesticated, regardless of the fact that dogs have been domesticated for a while. Dogs are not wild animals. We have wild dogs. I understand we have wild dogs, but dogs in the society are not wild animals. But some of them are dangerous. Now, do we say they are tamed? I'm trying to learn here. Pit bull dogs are safe and protective of their owners. Um, there was this dog. I don't know if I'll call it Samoyed. Samoyed dog. And I know of a pit bull that has killed its owner. And the owner tends to be a old man. And he has had that dog for 2 years before the dog killed the man. Okay. Dogs are considered man's best friend. Hmm. Samuel Yekere, let me ask a question. What are your views? If you would like to go there, let me just take time. I have few questions I would have loved to ask. So learn. What are your views regarding the debate of Kamala and Donald Trump? Do you think Donald Trump performed well? Did you think Kamala performed well? Because yesterday we spoke a little about politics. We talked about Kamala and Donald Trump's debate. And I had few observations because I didn't sleep that night. I was just watching what was going on live. I saw the whole debate. Maybe I came a little bit late, but I think I watched it for over an hour. Gives Donald Trump a knockout blow in the debate. Now, I wanted to know, do you think that there's a possibility that she she probably had more, like she's been informed before the debate? And the reason is basically because one of the things I saw Kamala doing was that throughout the debate, Donald Trump was looking at the moderator and he was talking to the moderator according to the questions that was being thrown to him. Kamala, on the other hand, she wasn't looking at the moderator. She was focusing her attention on Donald Trump. She was just paying attention to Donald Trump. And like, she already knows most of the questions coming. And she was just putting the attack straight on Donald Trump. Says all news media in America scored Kamala higher. Yeah. One of the things I also observed was that they fact checked whatever Donald Trump says, but they did not fact check whatever Kamala said. And I wonder why. I wonder why. Because there are few things that Kamala has also said in the past, like talking about busing and school integration, like talking about criminal justice reform record. Part of the things she has said in the past that were not actually true after being fact checked. And they never fact check anything she says in the past. But every question they kept asking Donald Trump was something that has to do with his past. But they were not asking the vice president, that's Kamala Harris, anything about the past. Now, part of the things I saw was that healthcare claims by Kamala Harris, they didn't ask her about it. Tax plan and impact on middle class. They didn't really ask her about it. Support for marijuana legalization, college desegregation, which she has actually talked about this particular subject. And in fact, her words were not accurate because I had to look at some of the videos and look at fact check some of them. Immigration policies, a stance on the death penalty, involvement in for-profit colleges, affordable housing initiative, support for LGBT rights. So, and I don't want to really read them out because at time as a San Francisco district attorney, prison labor, whatever she had to say on climate change policy, statements on students' debt, misrepresentation of Joe Biden's record. So they didn't fact check on it. Do you think that it is fair? Do you think the debate is fair? To me, it doesn't seem fair. If I was an advisor to Donald Trump, I would have asked him not to go for such a debate. Because number one, I didn't really think, this is just my observation, I didn't really think that Kamala Harris was able to defeat Donald Trump. What I saw was like the expectation was different. Now, people never expected that Kamala Harris would be able to stand with Donald Trump. And she find a way to, to stay. It's kind of helped her profile. It helped her profile. Because number one, nobody was expecting she would be able to stand with Donald Trump, basically because of what happened between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So that's how I see it. I don't know if she actually did well. Probably. I repute. Okay. Yeah. I have few opinions on her, but I think at the end of the day, politics is politics. Humans are humans, and everyone has right to choose whoever they want. And that's the beauty of politics. It's the beauty of politics. No problem. Danny says she was horrible. There are a lot of fact checks that I did on Kamala Harris, like looking at all about there are 20 of them, 20 words, and based of the research, they did not align up. And these data are also available to the public. And it was surprising they could not even pick out of any of them to talk to her about it. It was like one of the things I also looked at was during the time Donald Trump was the president, former president, it wasn't so nice to the media people. And it made me feel like it was because it wasn't so nice to them. When you ask Donald Trump a stupid question, he's going to tell you you're asking a stupid question. And so that's the reason why the media are trying to preserve. And look at what the media has done to him during this particular time. Trump was not given the chance to be derogatory as usual. Donald Trump was dislodged and didn't know what to expect. Derogatory in a sense, like he expressed himself on what he has to say. He wasn't given enough time to have his discussions. But the end of what he said, which was, you have been in the position of power. What have you been doing? That was a strong statement. Because Kamala Harris, and to be honest, there is no single question in the debate that they asked Kamala Harris and she answered according to the question. Every question is back to Donald Trump being a criminal. Every question they asked her, any question, she just directed to Donald Trump is a criminal and I'm a former prosecutor. It's so funny. It reminds me of, Trump is used to insulting media and contestants. And that was a playbook also. But at least he has some vision. He has some policy that people can look at. Maybe he's called a criminal simply because he has been to court. But everyone knows that was politics. If he was not running for president, he wouldn't have been called a criminal in the first place. In fact, people wouldn't have gone for him. But basically, because he was going for president the second time, that's the reason why people call him criminal. So is that, and I always say this, if Donald Trump wins, he's going to go down in history as one of the best presidents that America has had. He's going to go down in history because he has been through a lot in the idea of speaking about his country. I don't know, maybe we humans, we are not that good in reading people. I wouldn't say I love Donald Trump. I don't. But there are certain individuals that when you have to look at them, you're like, this one might be better than this one. Just looking at it from a distance. And that's what I see. But nevertheless, there's rights. Everyone has rights. And so let's pick up from whatever we think. May the best person win. With that being said, let's meet around 7 p.m. Thanks for everyone who has joined me today. 7 p.m. African time, we're going to be discussing on few subjects regarding Anunnakis and the rest of it. Have a great day. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye for now.